What's up, everybody? Welcome to What's Happening podcast. Today we have a long lineup of topics to get to, so let's get right into it.
Trump taps KASH Patel for FBI director and ally who would aid in his effort to upend law enforcement. And by the way, God knows how many clips there is reacting to this. Trump's aide KASH Patel demands massive declassification, calls for release of Epstein and Diddy list as truth must come out. A lot of people are love it. A lot of people are concerned about this. So Trump's aide KASH Patel called for declassification, including the Epstein list, Diddy list. The truth must come out no matter how uncomfortable. Patel, a former national security official, argued that these records, Rob, if you want to play this clip, go ahead and play this clip. Government gangsters. Go ahead and play this clip, Rob.
Anyway, the other thing that I put in the book that I recommended the boss to do, it's on this. We need a 24/7 declassification office.
Yes.
Rolling papers out 24/7.
Yes.
And not just like JFK and not just 9/11. You're talking to the guy that's read the whole 9/11 report and those 7 pages that people talk about. But I believe as like the guy who is an intel guy who believes wholeheartedly in the classified system of information, I believe that it has been over abused by these corrupt officials in government to hide the truth and enact more corrupt activities. So what I told the boss was like, I don't care what you call it, truth and reconciliation, whatever, come up with a better name. But every agency and department literally submits all of their documentation. And I believe you could get half out, half. I still think the other half needs to remain classified. I'll always argue that it does serve a purpose, but like you're seeing in these documents in the Jack Smith case, they're just redacting stuff that they lied about, that they broke the law.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's used to protect themselves.
And it's a public document in federal court, which is a document for the people of the United States. And we can have you run that office. You can come in and just be like, hey, I want all the Saudi documents.
I'll gladly do that. I'd be so happy.
So
Luke will be the press secretary for the Libertarian Party.
The declassifying
the
document.
viceroy of declassification.
Absolutely. I like that.
There you go.
I'm in. You got
What do you think about KASH Patel?
Right now, there is an all-time low confidence in government, exceeded only by the even lower low of people's trust in media. And I believe that the FCC chairman is very, very important. And I believe KASH Patel is very important. Because if we're going to restore pride in America, it has to come with this thing called trust. And we have to elevate some trust over this gooey, corrupt, disgusting, smelly thing we call government. And I'm with him. I think you need to declassify a lot of these things to restore some public confidence, find out what happened in a couple of these things. He's right. Jack Smith was redacting things that were basically the things they lied about. So it's a cover-up. It's using the redaction and using classified to create the cover-up. I think a few of those, just like food poisoning, you just got to throw up the food, start eating the saltines, sipping the Gatorade, and get your body back to normal. And I think that's what he has to do. And I believe KASH is the guy to do it. And I think he.
So people who are nervous about this, those are the people you need to watch because they're going to air out the dirty laundry and they don't want to get caught. So they ain't going to like it.
He's not a political analyst. He is not a pundit. The guy is a national security official that knows what the hell he's doing and isn't going to like declassify nuclear launch codes or secret CIA operations that are going on right now that where people could get hurt or things. He's going to restore trust. And I think he's absolutely correct. And he says he needs an office of declassification. Okay, that shouldn't be declassified. That shouldn't be declassified. No, not that, not that, not that. Yes, this, because it does serve a purpose. I think this is great news. And I think that it's not going to take a day. It's going to take time. But I really want to see 2 years into this and to see what he's been able to classify. And it's going to be big headlines. Some of it's going to be breaking glass. But I think the American people sit back and say, well, you know what? Now it's out there. But the other thing that happens, he doesn't let new things get classified. And he's got to be able to put a stop to some of that, like Jack Smith, classifying things just so they could hide lies.
Vinny.
I absolutely love this dude. I've been following this guy from when he was on Sean Ryan and when he was in Trump's administration. He said if he became the FBI director, he said, I would shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopen it the next day as a museum of the deep state. All right. And he said, then I take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America
To be cops.
chase down freaking criminals.
That's
Because
right.
you guys are cops. Go do your damn job. Stop being political activists for the freaking, the leg of the freaking Democratic Party. He said, every agency and department that I've worked for, when it comes to the fiscal end of the year, they're like, they go on trips, they go spend money. And he's like, you have to get back to Congress. And he goes, we can't do that. So he was on Tim Dillon, PVD, and he was talking about Tim Pool. I'm sorry. Okay. Tim Pool. I apologize. And this was the January 6th situation. The entire January 6th, which has been bothering me when they tried to push this insurrection and impeach Trump and all that stuff. This is what he's saying about Ray Epps about that day. And if it's okay, I want to show this and then a quick clip of Ted Cruz talking to Jill Sanborn with the FBI, and she wouldn't admit out loud in front of Congress that there was no FBI people there injuring people and starting a freaking a riot. This is him on the Ray Epps situation. Go ahead, Rob.
I'll get you beyond a reasonable doubt.
All
Two
right.
pieces of information. Ray Epps was on FBI's most wanted list one day, and the next day he was off of the FBI's most wanted list. There are only two ways that happens. You die, or your informant. Put that aside. Under congressional testimony, Jill Sanborn, who I used to work with, the head of the FBI Counterintelligence Division, in charge of all these investigations, testified under oath when Senator Cruz asked her, flat out, were there federal agents involved with January 6th? And she said, quote, Senator, I can't answer that at this time. Not if the answer was definitively no, having been a DOJ FBI guy myself, she would have gone there and said, nope, absolutely not. The reason she said I can't answer that is because of the same stonewalling they gave us during Russiagate with Christopher Steele Halper and everybody else. It's the same narrative, and I'm
and then that's the guy that you wanted to have in Christopher Wray's job. Good riddance. And this is it, Pat. He's asking Jill Sanborn basic questions, and if it's definitively no, just say absolutely not. They weren't doing all these things. She can't answer because it's true. Go ahead, Rob.
How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Why?
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
What?
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
PBD, she can't answer that because she knows that they were there. That's why Christopher Wray was there when he was in front of them, and he goes, I can't answer that. And that's all they've been doing. I think he's a breath of fresh air that's going to come in and clean house. He's my favorite. He's my favorite.
So as you guys can see, KASH Patel is someone who Donald Trump can really trust. So that's why he feels comfortable choosing him for FBI director. Let's see what CNN has to say.
Told us what he wants to do on day one. Let's listen.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops.
We're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice.
This job requires Senate confirmation. Daniel, any indications that he'll have trouble getting it?
Yeah, there is some reminders of the Matt Gaetz nomination, which got scuttled. There's no scandals like that in KASH Patel's background. But I think Republican senators are getting some heartburn this morning because they'll have to either oppose Trump on this, and they don't want to give him a lot of black eyes because they already have to deal with Pete Hegseth. And I think they're probably recalling an episode when Trump tried to put Patel in as head of the FBI, and Bill Barr said, over my dead body, and blocked it. And so what's interesting about this move is that Trump actually put in the FBI director, Chris Wray. He's Republican, appointed by a Republican, but he is not seen as loyal enough. And it'll be interesting to see if all of that stuff that you quoted, is that just campaign bluster? Is that to rile up his base? Or is it actually he's going to try to go after journalists where he will get a lot of pushback from members of agents of the FBI who that's not their job?
And run for the exits that they're, quote, terrified, losing their minds, panicked that Trump won. This after the Biden White House is accused of getting the Justice Department to go after Trump. Let's give a warm welcome to the show, former Trump White House National Security Council official, the author of the best-selling book, Government Gangsters, KASH Patel. KASH, it's your debut here. We were so excited to talk to you. KASH, what do you make of what Politico is reporting? Can you tell us what's really been going on inside the Justice Department when it comes to Democrat abuses of power?
What an auspicious day to make my debut. We are the home of the free because of the brave. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. And look, I was a national security prosecutor at the Department of Justice. I recall Russiagate being the lead investigator at the House Intelligence Committee, where we exposed not just FISA abuse, but unconstitutional activity against a political opponent. Where was the outcry then? Where's the outcry from the career officials since when Christopher Wray and the FBI illegally surveilled 275,000 Americans in 1 year alone? The reforms have not been implemented by these career officials. And let's reflect back on the Trump administration and his time in DOJ. He didn't seek retribution or revenge against anybody. He wanted to follow the Constitution and the law singularly and have it applied equally to all. And these career officials were absent and silent in the face of that massive corruption.
So Politico reports Justice Department lawyers with ties to Jack Smith and Robert Mueller's probe that staffers who are, just working with these lawyers, they're concerned they're going to be either frozen out or fired. Won't it depend on his attorney general pick, if it's Senator Mike Lee, former DNI John Ratcliffe, or Ken Paxton?
Look, those conversations will between the president and the AG, but I just want to point out a legal principle that the Department of Justice has issued for 50 plus years, that it is in violation of the executive branch and the judicial and executive judiciaries to commingle investigation of a sitting president. That wasn't a decision by Donald J. Trump. That was a decision by the Department of Justice. That's not a decision by an attorney general. That's one in which the Department of Justice has adjudicated that.
So KASH Patel been riding for Donald Trump for a while, so that's why Donald Trump did him a favor and hit him back with the FBI director after Bill Maher said, "Over my dead body." So Trump's one of the biggest trolls out here, y'all.
That it would violate the separation of powers clause for a sitting DOJ to investigate a sitting president. They are simply following established law.
KASH, how bad was this Biden White House in terms of lawfare abuses and government corruption?
Well, look, it's pretty, I don't know where you start, from 51 intel letter to impeachment 1 and 2 to Russiagate to everything in between. I think they are the ones that weaponize justice. And President Trump has been out there singularly saying, we want to unify this country. And he has said his revenge is that it's not anything related to revenge. It's the success of this nation. And that is what we should all be championing. He championed it on the campaign trail. He received a
So basically all the things we've been thinking the past 4 years, we've been calling out that they call conspiracy theories is actually true, and it's all about to come out in due time. So 2025 shall be interesting. All right, y'all, we're going to hop on over to the migrant crisis in New York, man. $220 million taxpayer dollars going to Packies.
Continuing in the United States, New York City has sparked a controversy with a $220 million deal to lease the iconic Roosevelt Hotel. Owned by Pakistan's International Airlines, the 19-story hotel, which was once a Manhattan landmark, is now being used as a migrant housing center, offering services like food and vaccines.
I'm very grateful to the government who have helped us to find a roof, food to eat. We appreciate that, but 60 days is very little time to find a place, especially because the rent here is very expensive. We're human beings and need to be relocated because we need a roof to stay under, even more now that it's colder. They should think about the kids. I know it's not.
So they brought him here and gave them 60 days. And what's going to happen after that 60 days if they can't find nothing to do? New York just said that they've taken away all the funding for migrants after they brought all these people here. Now it's just going to turn into crime. People are going to be running crazy in New York.
Not an obligation because they didn't ask us to come here. But if you see what someone goes through for someone to arrive here, it is hard.
Now, it's worth noting that as glamorous as the Roosevelt looks, the hotel has a complex history, but it was at one time, quote unquote, seen as a sweetheart deal for Pakistan. Back in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the hotel closed down due to low occupancy and financial struggles. And then in 2023, as part of a $1.1 billion IMF bailout to help Pakistan avoid default, the hotel was included in an agreement to generate revenue. The 3-year lease covers at least 1,250 rooms, giving Pakistan $220 million over a period of 3 years.
A long-standing stop for business travel. Amazing location, is 900 rooms. We heard that it was being transformed to a migrant processing center. You know, it's just an interesting sort of adjustment for such a historic standard piece of New York real estate.
Now, Pakistan, on the other hand, sees the deal as a financial life.
I'm a little worried because what will happen with us? We are in a shelter, says this mother of two. She came to New York City after crossing the southern border. She left Venezuela seeking asylum and choosing to settle here. Here, there are benefits. You can get shelter. New York City, long known as a sanctuary city with a right to shelter mandate. I see a lot of help from the city, says this woman who recently came from Ecuador. I'm in a shelter, she tells me. Since spring of 2022, New York City has opened more than 200 emergency migrant shelters, converting many hotels into homes for asylum seekers. But now the Adams administration is closing down sites. For example, the Americana Inn in Midtown Manhattan is about to reopen with rooms available to anyone who wants to book after operating as a city shelter for migrants. Hotel Merit, also located in Midtown, is reopening to the public too after also housing migrants. The city says it closed 11 migrant shelters last month. That equals approximately 1,800. Crisis has turned a corner, adding it's helped more than 160,000 migrants move on from city care. In a statement, a City Hall spokesperson said, "This is a testament to the hard work our staff and many partners have put in to ensure we kept thousands of migrants from sleeping on our streets every night." Since the spring of 2022, more than 224,000 migrants have come. The Roosevelt Hotel was established as the official intake center. It's still up and running. The city says about 400 new migrants arrived here last week. If you compare that to January 2024, at that point in the migrant crisis, the city says it was averaging about 1,000 new arrivals each week here at the official intake center. In spite of the dwindling numbers, the city says more than 50,000 migrants remain in city shelters. The Row in Manhattan.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams holding his weekly Q&A.
To address the potential deportations of migrants right here in the city when President-elect Donald Trump takes office. Morgan Mackay has more on this.
We have been wasting taxpayers' money for far too long.
$6.4 billion is how much New York City has spent on the migrant crisis in the past 2 years. And Mayor Eric Adams says he is furious that taxpayer money has been used.
We could have spent $600 million on 2,000 guiding counselors and social workers in schools. They hurt the future of New York City.
Adams says President-elect Donald Trump's win made it clear that Americans want a secure border and are in favor of Trump's border policies. But Adams still refusing to comment on possible mass deportations.
I'm not going to speculate on what the plans are. We just scenario.
But Adams also making it clear that he would be open to deporting migrants who commit crimes, not just those who are convicted of their crimes, saying the legal process is for Americans when asked about his own bribery charges that he is facing.
The Constitution is for Americans. And I'm not a person that snuck into this country. The person that decides to shoot a police officer, they should not have those same rights.
Meanwhile, immigration advocates are blasting Adams for his comments.
Mayor Adams is wrong. He's ripping a page out of Trump's playbook and stoking fear and spreading misinformation.
Now, Adams did confirm that he spoke with Tom Homan, the incoming border czar that's been tapped by President-elect Trump, and says he hopes to sit down with him in the coming weeks. Reporting from City Hall, I'm Morgan Mackay, Fox 5.
To bring you this breaking news that the DOJ has said an undocumented Chinese immigrant shipped weapons to North Korea from California. We are hearing from multiple speakers right now. We're going to turn back over and listen in live.
Good morning. My name is Akil Davis. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles field office. Today, agents arrested Mr. Nguyen without incident at his home in Ontario. He'll appear in court later this afternoon. As noted in the complaint charging Mr. Nguyen, agents located military-grade technology in Nguyen's home and 50,000 rounds of ammunition. As you can see on display here today, photos of evidence are on display, as well as additional items that Mr. Nguyen successfully.
This is the dangerous aspect of just having an open border and then anybody fly through anywhere, walk through anywhere, drive through anywhere. This is why Trump wanted to build a wall.
Successfully procured. Many of these items are described in detail in the criminal complaint, which we made available to you. I'm proud of the hard work that went into building this case against Mr. Nguyen by dedicated agents and analysts. The FBI and many of our federal partners here today specialize in cases that involve illegal export to foreign adversaries who attempt to evade sanctions and utilize weapons and technology for nefarious purposes. The significance of this arrest and discovery of this scheme cannot be overstated. Not only did the investigative team prevent additional restricted items from going to the North Korean regime, but they gathered valuable intelligence for the United States and all of our allies. This case is a success for the United States and no doubt dealt a significant blow to the North Korean government. Our investigation is continuing. Thank you for your time today. And I'd like to now introduce Special Agent in charge of Homeland Security Investigations, Sean Gibson.
Thank you, Akil. Good morning. My name is Sean Gibson, and I'm the Special Agent in charge for Homeland Security Investigations, also known as HSI, just south of here in San Diego. Today, we're here to highlight the critical work that went into this joint investigation, a collaborative effort between the.
So now they're going to sit up here and act like they've been doing the job this whole time, but they wouldn't have had this problem if they would have been securing the border. And that's what a lot of politicians do. They make problems, and then they act like they're a superhero when it's time to solve them. All right, y'all. So now we're going to take a look at how open borders and letting the drugs in, just flowing to the inner cities, how it affects people, man. Sad.
As you see, I got like infection everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That just appeared days ago.
Yeah. And see how deep it goes? Like, that's insane.
Ryan Green is a victim of a new street drug, eating away at the bodies of those who use it.
My arm swelled up like about this big, and it was like an abscess. It hurt so bad. This is a real trank sore.
Trank is fentanyl mixed with xylazine, an animal tranquilizer meant for horses and cattle.
You end up unconscious to the point where people will just rob you when you're asleep every time.
and it's completely taken over Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood, block after block of devastating harm.
For about a year now, there's been this mobile clinic coming to this neighborhood because so many people here have terrible skin rotting wounds from the drug.
You stay safe. How you doing? All right, what are we going to do first? Your arm and then your head? All right, take a deep breath. I'm sorry. You know, I don't mean to hurt you.
The clinic is run by the city and a local hospital, and Ryan is a regular here.
Yeah, this hurts really bad. That hurts because it's really infected.
Nurse practitioner Michelle Murphy-Rosansky treats about 25 patients every day.
You okay? We see people who've lost multiple body parts. In the summer, we do see a lot of maggots because they get into the wounds. Yeah, it's brutal.
Like so many, Ryan at first didn't know his fentanyl had been cut with xylazine. Now he's addicted to the mix.
But still come back tomorrow. Let me write the prescription, so don't leave yet.
What's happening here is extreme, but it could also serve as a warning because trank is showing up in Canada too, making the overdose crisis even worse.
The Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction says xylazine, or trank, has emerged as an increasingly common cutting agent.
Now, Health Canada is warning that trank is being found more in Canada.
Health Canada says cases of xylazine in street drugs it analyzed jumped from 5 to more than 1,300 over the last 5 years. It's being found most in Ontario.
We're in Windsor, a border city in southern Ontario, and it's been hit really hard by the opioid crisis with rising overdose deaths. And like in Philadelphia, outreach workers and people who use drugs say the drug supply here is becoming even more toxic.
The levels are nowhere near Philadelphia. Still, with trank's arrival here, Lacey Kresman's outreach has become more urgent.
What can I get for you?
Narcan, both
Injectable and nasal?
She distributes supplies so people can use drugs safely.
You remember when I was here the other day, I was talking about that xylazine stuff.
Trank, right?
Right. It changes how we respond to overdose. It looks a lot different. So
I've even noticed that because people who are on Fetty that don't know they're doing trank, they'll be stumbling and be like, I'm not high. And you're like, you can't even stand straight. You are high on something. Thank you.
Is the situation getting worse here?
I don't know if it's getting worse. What I will say is I think it's getting more complex, and the way
Yes, it's getting worse. She being nice, man. It's getting worse.
that we offer outreach services. Have you guys heard about xylazine?
No.
It's causing a lot of skin wounds and
like chicken gut.
Exactly like that.
This is healed. That's 2 months healed.
Lacey quickly comes across this man who says he overdosed, was given naloxone to reverse it moments before.
How long were you Narcan ago? You know that he can go back into overdose, though, right? Do you want me to wait with him while you go get him a drink?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
No one knows what he's taken, so Lacey keeps close because if it's xylazine, naloxone won't work. That's part of why Lacey is so worried.
How dangerous is that when someone, gets fentanyl, they don't know trank is in it, they take it, and they just didn't know what they had? How dangerous is that for them?
It's not dangerous, it's fatal. I'm training people on how to respond to polysubstance overdoses. And right now, that could be anything. And so we want to keep people alive. We want to keep them breathing.
Ontario's chief coroner says xylazine has been detected in more than 100 overdose deaths since 2020. Windsor police say they've found fentanyl mixed with xylazine in 2 drug busts since 2022. It's not clear if it was added locally, but in some ways it doesn't matter.
We've already had 2 confirmed xylazine deaths in Windsor, Essex.
Where xylazine was in the fentanyl someone took.
Yes. And unfortunately, it's always playing a game of catch up. I'm sure that it's a lot worse than what we're seeing, in the statistics right now.
That makes knowing what's in drugs so important. In Toronto, street drugs from around the city are dropped off here every day.
Hi, how's it going?
A lab at St. Michael's Hospital,
It's supposed to be fentanyl.
where testing is done to see what's in them.
Caffeine, benzo, a little bit of appraisal.
Karen McDonald is with the Toronto Drug Checking Service.
So we found 7 drugs in this sample. That includes floral fentanyl. We also found bromazolam. We found xylazine. So xylazine is a central nervous system depressant. And so using it in combination with fentanyl increases the risk of dangerous suppression of the vitals. It is a drug that is not approved for human use. In the spring of 2022 was when it was really at its peak. We were finding xylazine in 20% of the fentanyl samples that we checked.
This peak here, this is xylazine.
Levels fluctuate, hovering around 10% for this year. But that could change, or other unexpected additives could show up at any time.
So what that means is that the drug supply is getting stronger. It's just getting worse and worse and worse, more contaminated, less predictable.
I am a person who uses drugs. Right now, I am not in active use.
There's not much testing in Windsor. That means Brandon Bailey, who struggles staying clean, might never know what he's actually taking.
That's scary. There is times where I've relapsed, where I've wanted to not use, and then I ended up using on a day. And yeah, when I end up with something that has that, I'm not the person that I want to be.
Have you had an experience where you've overdosed?
I've had it where I've gone to sleep and then I wake up and I don't have any concept. So I could have been overdosing. I don't know. I could have died. It's not just people who are living in poverty or people who are homeless. It's happening to absolutely anybody.
The real battle, getting ahead of trank before it really takes hold here.
Testing is paramount to be able to better support people who are using the substances, and funding for those initiatives are really, really important in the work that we do.
Still, it's the personal toll that drives Lacey. She knows all too well what's at stake.
I'm so struck by when you talk about the fact that most of your friends from high school have died because of overdoses.
Yeah.
That's really heavy.
It is really heavy. And my hope is that it will change.
Back in Philadelphia, ground zero for tackling trank.
Now it's
I can't tell y'all how many people I know who OD'd in the last 4 years, man. It's crazy.
It's been found in 48 out of 50 states.
Mel Bettis remains determined.
I know you want it. Yeah.
In recovery herself, Bettis works with Savage Sisters, one of the main outreach organizations in Kensington.
So both my arms were completely open from like here to here. I was fortunate enough that they healed and I got tattoos over them.
To cover the scars?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does the shark mean anything?
I just like sharks.
Just like sharks.
Yeah.
We're starting to see trank a little bit more in Canada, which is why we're here. What would you say to communities where it is starting to appear?